F-15 pilots Mogas and Snap from the Oregon Air National Guard are going on a dogfight training exercise. They are going to simulate shooting an intruder out of the sky by locking their weapons onto each other in a mock dogfight. Before each flight, the pilots carry out one final check to make sure that the plane is airworthy. Even though the F-15 is an old plane, it is still the premier air-to-air combat fighter in operation today.
You have an airplane that's been around for 30 years, and still there's countries out there that are still trying to build airplanes to counter this airplane specifically. And I think that's attributed to the continual attention this airplane's been given over the years to keep it at cutting edge.
Mogas 1 and 2, AB climb to 15,000 is approved. Departure end cable indicates up. Wind 260 at 6, runway 28 left, clear for takeoff, change to departure.
Mogas 1 clear for takeoff with quick climb, and say again the freak for departure.
Departure frequency 299.2 for Mogas 1 and 2.
2992 for Mogas, Mogas push 9.
By the time you get down to the end of the runway, you're doing 300, 400, 500 miles an hour, and then you can basically just take off straight up into the air. It's quite a sensation. It's like being on the tip of a rocket.
By the time you reach the end of the runway, your gear's up, your flaps are up, and you're ready to pull. You go straight up in the air. You're ready to pull a nice 7G turn straight up to go vertically. And you can get up in a hurry that way. It'll certainly wake you up in the morning.
The afterburners can push the F-15 to 4,545 meters. That's 4.5 kilometers up, in less than a minute, reaching twice the speed of sound, but at a cost.
Anytime you use afterburners, you're going to increase your IR or your infrared or your heat signature.
This would make the plane vulnerable to heat-seeking missiles, which could lock onto the heat exhaust from the afterburner and shoot the plane down.
You're also using a heck of a lot more gas because it's raw fuel in order to get that afterburner working. So you have a fuel disadvantage by having to use it, and obviously you have a heat signature disadvantage.
Once they reach 9,000 meters, Mogas and Snap start their dogfight training exercise. They take turns being the hunter and hunted. One plane acts out the role of the enemy, while the other chases and attempts to lock on its weapons guidance systems. Once the hunter plane locks on, he registers a kill.
There's a gun strike kill right there.
A strike for Mogas. Had this been a real intruder, they'd now be nothing more than charred metal and smoke. Even though the F-15 is well past its shelf life, it will continue to be the U.S. Air Force's premier air-to-air strike fighter until its successor comes into service in a decade.
I believe it still does rule the skies. There's specific airplanes that do other things probably a little better, but when you take the overall package and you talk about the overall airplane, it's still a top contender in the world, and probably will continue to be until we bring the new one online.
It's just a beautiful airplane. I don't think that in the history of mankind, I don't think we will ever build a more beautiful airplane, and it's just a real joy to fly.
The F-15 has proved itself in combat time and time again, but it has one huge disadvantage. Because of its size, it requires a 2.5 kilometer long runway. This means that it can't operate from small airfields close to the battlefield. What was needed was a plane that could take off from anywhere.